Hello, I'm Nick Humphrey. I wish I could have been with you in London this morning to present our case, and I know Dan Dennett wishes the same. But I've got to give lectures today in New York, and Dan's in Chicago, so the best we can do at the moment is to offer you these brief messages. Still, at least you're going to be able to meet the one person I'm sure you most want to meet, and that, of course, is Brian Felsen, our composer. Dan and I may have inspired his oratorio up to a point, but of course it's his work, and Brian's the creative genius behind it. I realise there's not a lot of time for this, and to economise on words, I've actually written a brief statement, which I'll read now. Dan Dennett and I have worked together before, 15 years ago, when I was a visiting fellow at Tufts University, and we each began writing books on consciousness. I remember discussing with Dan whether a book was the right way to go about it. No one else had yet written an even half-decent book on consciousness, and perhaps the reason was that conventional language just isn't the right way to go about the job. Perhaps it's just not up to it. What was needed, we thought, maybe, was some less linear medium, better able to express the multiple layering, the time loops, the self-intimating properties that we both believed lay at the heart of consciousness, but we were finding it so hard to capture. Or poetry, maybe that would have been the way to do it. And my own book, The History of the Mind, does in fact contain more poetry than most texts on the philosophy of mind, but I'm not sure in the end it really helped. Music. Well, yes, we did think that music could be the way to go ahead, if only we knew how to employ it. John Ruskin said, all art aspires to the condition of music, and maybe in the end all science and philosophy does too. But I can't write music, and nor can Dan Dennett. Brian Felsen can. The miracle is that Brian can do philosophy as well. When Brian approached me last summer, out of the blue, with the first draft of his oratorio about consciousness, I was bowled over. Not only is this piece of music beautiful, exciting, funny, original, it's also philosophically deep. Here he's found ways of expressing directly so many of the things we book writers could only get at indirectly with elaborate metaphors. View from the Stranger's Gallery is already pretty much a finished work. Even so, Brian has been developing many of his ideas in isolation, and I know he'd be the first to say he still wants advice and criticism. If we are awarded this production grant, Brian will come to live in London for 6 months or so. Dan will be coming in any case to spend 3 months with me at the LSE, and during the time we're all together, Brian will work with us towards a final version of the oratorio that comes even closer to the goal of marrying art and science. Brian has already lined up several orchestras and singers, and the Institute of Contemporary Arts in London has asked that they should be allowed to stage the first performance in October or November this year. The ICA has said that they'd also want to organise accompanying workshops to discuss consciousness, music and meaning. The oratorio will attract wide public interest as a new work of art. Dennett and I will try to see to it that the workshops become a major cultural and intellectual event. Not many people know this. I'm almost ashamed to say it. While everybody now acknowledges that understanding consciousness is the greatest remaining challenge for philosophy and science, the field of consciousness studies, as it's called, is not obviously going anywhere at present. We scientists urgently require fresh approaches to help us get going again. I like to think that Felsen's bright new musical offering may be just what's needed.